All right, really happy to have Isaiah Harris with me here. Isaiah, you were just an absolutely fantastic runner in high school, have the all-time state record in the 800, and you've done just completely amazing things in your college and pro days, basically. So I just want to know, how are you holding up during this whole time, and just what are you doing right now to kind of stay fresh?
Yeah, so um, it's tough during these times to kind of find motivation to train. Like I know me personally, I look forward to racing. Some days the training can be brutal, but racing, kind of makes up for that and makes it all seem worth it. So not having races in sight, it's a little bit of a bummer, but basically the way that I've been trying to look at it is just changing my mindset and like kind of looking at it in a positive way in the sense of like I'm super competitive. So I think, trying to find any edge over other people is, what I like to do. And I mean, once you get to this level, it's like, you need the small, like anything you can get over someone is, it adds up. So I'm kind of looking at it like, okay, maybe there's some people out there who are kind of slacking during this time, or, they're not doing everything that they would be doing if there was, a mandatory practice with their coach and like, with the eyes on them. So I kind of like think about that while I'm out there, and it kind of motivates me to, do everything that I would be doing normally. And then sometimes I feel motivated, to do a little bit of extra work. So I think just like changing the way you think about it, and I know a lot of people in this sport are competitive, so this little tactic would probably work for a lot of people. And yeah, it seemed to really help me. Other than that, I'm just trying to enjoy like just spending time with my friends, like my roommates, and like just doing what we can do and just staying positive, and then knowing that things will get normal again, and this isn't the end, and things will come back to how they were. So yeah.
So, what was your initial reaction when you did see that the Olympics this year were postponed? Obviously, you had such a great year last year. I mean, just seems like you're really at the top of your game right now. So, what was your initial reaction to that?
I mean, I was bummed, just like I think everyone was. My biggest thing was they weren't saying at first whether they were going to cancel it or if it was just postponed. So I was just, really, really hoping that it wasn't getting canceled and that they were going to push it back. So when that news finally came out that they were planning on having it in 2021, I was kind of relieved. Luckily, I'm young, so another year is probably going to be more in my benefit, and that's how I like to look at it. But it kind of sucks for some of the older athletes in the sport, where it's like maybe this was the last year that they had, or they were planning on retiring after this year, and now they either have to go another year or try to hold up another year. But like I said, in my aspects, it's kind of nice since I'm young. I have that time, so I'm just staying focused and just using that as my goal to keep training hard.
Yeah, and I actually kind of want to go back to your time at Penn State. You won the outdoor title in 2018, correct?
Yep.
Can you just kind of describe the feeling of just like being a national champion at that level? Like, what was like? Was there a moment in time during that race like where it kind of sunk in? Maybe like how would you describe that feeling?
Um, Honestly, it was probably my like greatest moment of my life. So it was really awesome. That was like became my goal after my freshman year of college, to win an NCAA title. And I kind of every year would, every practice when things would get tough, I would think about, how nice it would be to be crossing the line at the national championship with, your arms raised and winning it out front of the crowd in Oregon. So I would use that as like motivation. So when it actually came true, it was just surreal. And I kind of shocked myself. It was definitely a good race, and I knew like I personally thought I could do it, but Michael Cerrone was in the race, and he had broke the collegiate record that year. He ran 1:43 like 5 or something. I don't even know, but it's fast. So I knew it was going to be a tough race, but I was confident in myself, and like I said, it was just surreal when I crossed the line.
And then you decided to go pro later that year, correct?
Yeah, so I signed with Nike just like 2 or 3 weeks after that. It's all really quick in the track world. They want you to kind of be repping your sponsor during the U.S. champs, and that's always 2 or 3 weeks after NCAA. So it's a really quick turnaround, and it's a pretty stressful process. Like that could be a whole video in itself, and but I'm just very grateful. Yeah.
So what's been kind of the biggest adjustment from turning pro? Like, what are some of the big differences that you've noticed compared to like your college training?
Let's see. So for me personally, the training, like every year I kind of can handle more, and you know, the workload gets a little bit heavier, but I'm still with my college coach and like still training at Penn State. So in a lot of the ways it feels similar. I get to run with the guys on the team. And so in that aspect, like it kind of feels the same, but the biggest adjustment really has been more about the meets. And it's like I travel to a lot of meets by myself because my coach is, you know, busy with the Penn State team, and it's completely different versus like in high school and college, you travel with your whole team. You know, you've got everyone doing the same thing as you, whereas now in the pro world, it's kind of like I go out there on my own. Like, you know, I mean, you got to kind of know what you need to do. You don't have a coach like looking over your shoulder telling you when to do this, when to do that. So it's a little bit different, but it's fine. I personally enjoy it. I don't think I need someone. I think I've been doing it long enough where I kind of know what I need to do. So yeah.
That's awesome. So I kind of want to go back to your time at Lewiston as well. I want to talk about your state meet, your senior year, outdoor track. You just kind of the triple you had was just like pretty ridiculous. You win the 200, 800, 1600, then you anchored the 4x4, right?
Yeah.
It's just like I feel like that's never been done, and just that range and that ability. What do you remember from that day?
I just remember I really wanted to win a state championship for the school, and I knew we had a chance. Honestly, I didn't know what I was gonna do. My coach wanted me to run all those races, and you know, in high school, you kind of just do what your coach tells you to do, and so I went out there and kind of surprised myself, and we ended up winning the state championship, and it was awesome. But yeah, that's kind of like a thing that, you know, when I go to some of these races now and they like do introductions, a lot of the time they'll talk about how I was 200-meter state champion. So it's pretty funny that that's followed me throughout my career.
And then it was just a couple of weeks later you broke 150 for the first time. Was that like your ultimate goal in high school to kind of go under that?
Yeah, I feel like that's a big milestone for 800 runners in high school. If you can go sub 150, you know, it's a pretty big deal. So yeah, that was my very last race my senior year, and yeah, I went out. It was at New Balance Nationals. We were in the slow heat, unfortunately, and I kind of took the race from the gun, and I'm pretty bad at leading a race. So went out a little bit slower than I should have to run sub 150, but luckily there's a guy named Avery Bartlett in that race who's also a professional runner now for Atlanta Track Club. He was stuck in the slow heat with me. He kind of I think he passed me at 400 to go and pushed the pace, and then we kind of just battled down the home stretch, and I ended up nipping him at the line by just a lean, and without him I probably wouldn't have broke 150 that day. So I was just on a podcast with him a week or two ago, and we talked about that a lot. So I give him credit for that. But yeah, it was my ultimate goal. So it was awesome to see it come true in my very last race.
Very cool. And then obviously you went on to Penn State that fall. I would assume that you probably had schools all around the country wanting you. What was it that ultimately led to you to go to Penn State?
To be honest, people say like when you go on your visits, you kind of just know when you get to the school that you want to go to. And I didn't really believe that, but once I went to Penn State, I realized that statement was pretty true. I mean, just the facilities there are crazy. And, you know, coming from Maine where we don't have like any professional sports teams or anything, everything's kind of small. I just liked the big like atmosphere of sports there and how like serious, like the football stadium, 107,000 people fit in the stadium. So it's just ridiculous. It's a whole nother like world. And like that kind of just really drew me in. And then not only that, on the academic side, I realized that it's a pretty good school, and it's no Stanford or Ivy League, but it's still a good education. So it's a like perfect mixture of like being big on sports, yet still going to get a good education. And then on top of all of that, the Coach Gondak, who's still my coach now, just had a great track record of producing 800 runners and milers. And at the time, Brandon Kidder was on the team, who now runs professionally for Brooks, and he runs the 800 and 1500. And he was going to be a senior when I was a freshman. So I had someone I knew that was, going to be a lot better than me and kind of push me in practice and motivate me to get better. So all of that combined really just drew me in, and it was kind of a no-brainer.
And then it seems like you kind of entered college at a time where it was almost like a golden age for 800. It's like Bryce Hoppel, Brazier, Clayton Murphy, those guys.
Yeah.
You kind of talked about it like at the top with your competitiveness. With having all those guys there, like what did that do for, like, what was your mentality during that whole process when you just knew there were 5-6 guys that were just right at your level?
I think honestly, it just kind of pushes everyone to be better when you have that many people around you running fast. Like that's where the bar is set, and it's like you have to get there if you want to be considered good. So at the time, I was kind of not like, I didn't really follow track too much in high school. So I got to college and was kind of, I didn't know a lot of the big names and stuff like that. So I was kind of oblivious, but I think it kind of helped me a little bit, because I wouldn't like, stress too much if I was going into a race and had a race like Clayton Murphy or someone who just, had a good history of running fast. So, yeah, like I said, it just kind of, it pushes you to be better. And at some points in my career, I was just like, wow, if I had been in college 4 years ago and running these times, like I would have won nationals like multiple times. But like, you can't look at it like that. You have to just step up to the competition and try to be better. And it pushed me, and I think it helped me get to where I am now.
That's awesome. And so I asked Riley Masters this like a couple of weeks ago when we did this, talking about just there's a nice main contingent at all these national meets, at the Olympic trials, World Championships. Do you ever take the time to kind of seek out whether it's Riley or maybe Kate Hall or Ben, any of those guys? Is there any type of like communication there at those meets at all?
Yeah. So me and Kate have been friends since high school, and we would see each other all the time at meets. Since we're the same class, it was like we saw each other everywhere. So we'd always hang out. We'd try to like get lunch or dinner or something if we could. And Chris Pribish, her trainer / coach, would always be out there, and her family as well. And we'd always, go do something, just hang out and get our minds off of the competition. So that was always fun. I think Riley, I haven't seen him as much, but I know I have seen him before, and he will always say hi, and nothing like, crazy, but we're all civil. I'd say my relationship with Kate is the most like the closest relationship, but yeah, we're all supportive of each other. Like if I see anyone from Maine doing well, I'm always going to stand them, because, such a small state, we don't have too much of a representation the national stage, so it's always awesome when you see someone doing something that's from Maine.
So I just kind of finish things up. I just want to go back to your time in Lewiston, and when you look back at your career, is there any specific race that really sticks out in your mind as like maybe like your favorite race at all? I know it's kind of a pretty broad question, but yeah.
I mean, there's a lot. I think winning states my sophomore year, which was the first year that I did track in high school, kind of was a big moment, because it is when I realized that I was actually pretty good at track. So that kind of really was like the turning point. And like after that, I was like, okay, like before I'd always think that I was going to go play basketball in college. And then track was kind of just a side thing that, I did to stay in shape for basketball. And then after that race, I was like, okay, I'm actually pretty good at this. I kind of surprised myself. Like, I want to, put in more time and effort into this and like see where it can get me. And it was just all uphill from there. So that's a big moment for me. Breaking 150 again is like a big milestone. So that's always going to be one of my favorite races. And then just kind of the day at States that we talked about as well. It's just like was a special day. My whole family was out there, and we won the state title, and it just was a fun day. And yeah, so there's a lot of good moments
Yeah.
from back then. It kind of just depends on which way you want to look at it, but a lot of good times.